So this one goes out to the Torah brothers and sisters again. This is on, how do I put this? A lot of the Torah people think we're still under the sacrificial law and that they still need the sacrificial law to tell them not to sleep with a farm animal. So, which is crazy, but they believe the sacrificial law is still in play. And what they're not understanding is you've got scripture that completely annihilates all of this, and I don't know why they can't see it. Covetousness, I imagine, of the feast days, because the thing about coveting the feast days is if you're coveting, you're breaking the 10 commandments and you're not in covenant, and you won't have his spirit if you're not in covenant. You have to obey his holy covenant of 10 commandments. Actually, it's covenants of promise, which I'm about to get into, to be saved. So I'll start this off with a few verses. You've got Colossians 2:14. It talks about blotting out the handwriting and ordinances against us when Yeshua came and died on the cross. He's quoting Deuteronomy 31:24 there. He put the sacrificial law in the side of the ark. It was temporary till the times of refreshing came. This is Acts 3. Read Acts 3. Acts 3 is quoting Deuteronomy 18:15. This is the sacrificial law that was written with pen and paper by Moses, and it was temporary. It's not meant to be forever. You're acting like it's forever. It's not. When he died on the cross, he ended sacrificial law. The 10 commandments were placed inside the ark. The ark represents your heart, where he wants his commandments. Like when Jeremiah 30:31 talks about he's going to write his law on our hearts and minds. He's going to be doing that. That's where he wants the commandments, is in our heart. We're not in the new covenant yet. So then you got Ephesians 2:10-12. Now this is a really big one, because if the sacrificial law was still at play, why would he say that we were strangers to the covenants of promise? 2 covenants. The rainbow covenant, which was clean eating, and the refreshed holy covenant of 10 commandments. These are the only 2 covenants with promise. They stand forever. They're never going away. Was the sacrificial law a covenant of promise? Was it made forever? Or was it temporary? And if the sacrificial law was still in play, then why on earth was Yeshua not stoned to death when they caught the woman in adultery and brought her out to Yeshua to see what he would say? And you know how the story goes. They didn't stone her. He said, if whoever's without sin, cast the first stone. Now, Yeshua was the high priest. He had the right to stone her, yet he let her go. So according to the sacrificial law, she had to be stoned. So if he wasn't doing that, he would have been breaking the sacrificial law and then would have been in jeopardy of being stoned himself. So explain that one if you can. He was showing you he prefers mercy and not sacrifice. And what did he tell her? What did he tell her? He told her to go and sin no more by keeping the covenant. So you got to understand, if you're still believing in the sacrificial law, you're now fulfilling Hebrews, where you're trampling on the sacrifice of Yeshua and what he did on the cross, the pole, the tree. And now you're trampling his sacrifice and putting a yoke of bondage back on people. You see, this is what I like to call, the Torah people are what I like to call the circumcision party. because they go around, and Paul was teaching his new converts the Holy Covenant. That's how you get baptized. And when you get into agreement and decide to start following the Ten Commandments, the Holy Covenant, you, where was I going with that? Said a brain fart. The circumcision party, right? Yeah, squirrel. So Paul was trying to convert these people, and these Judaizers were coming behind him and trying to tell the people, Paul's wrong, no, that's not right, he doesn't have a right, you still have to follow the sacrificial law. And it was confusing people, and he was stealing his new converts from them and putting them back under a yoke of bondage. The yoke of bondage is the sacrificial law. So what y'all are doing is y'all are trying to go out and put people back under this yoke of sacrificial law, and you're doing despite unto the Holy Covenant that was refreshed. See, Acts 3 also talks about the times of refreshing. What was being refreshed there? What was being refreshed? They were under sacrificial law till the times of refreshing. Refreshing is the gospel. It's good tidings. It's preaching good tidings, fresh, refresh. Do a strong search on all these words and you will see it points to the Holy Covenant. In Isaiah 42:21, when he came to magnify and make honorable the law, he came to refresh the Holy Covenant. You see, the Holy Covenant is a wedding contract between you and the Father. And we cheated on God. We went out and slept with another dude like a week after we got married to God. And if you break a wedding contract, then you can't remarry without death of a loved one. There's no way to remarry. Remarriage can only happen if the other person dies. So, guess who that was? When Yeshua died on the contract, on the pole, it renewed the contract. It allowed God a way to remarry Israel and for his bride to come back into covenant. Not through the sacrificial law, through the covenant, the Ten Commandments. That's one of the main reasons Yeshua came, was to renew the wedding contract so that we could be remarried back to God again, because you can't remarry an adulterer on the same marriage license. Like, you can't do that. If you divorce your wife, you can't go back to her if she's been unfaithful. Death is the only way you can then be remarried if you get a divorce, if you're in covenant. So he had to come to die so that we could be remarried back to him. The Ten Commandments are simply wedding vows, man. They're your wedding vows to your Father, to do what he says, to be in covenant with him. Then you got verses in 1 Timothy, I think, that talk about the law is how is it worded? The law is good if used lawfully. Now, what I'm not suggesting is that what the schoolmaster, the sacrificial law, the schoolmaster was saying was unlawful, or that we just don't keep any of those anymore. It's lawful if used lawfully. It's good if used lawfully. So, when you understand the spiritual context of the sacrificial law now, it is good. And I'll give you a prime example. It's the royal law of Leviticus 19:15 through 18. If you fulfill that one according, and that's in the sacrificial law, and if you fulfill that one, like James 2:8 says, you do good. But trying to tell people they can only wear cotton or linen or wool, or what was the other one? Like stuff like that, right? You can't wear linen and wool. Well, okay, so now you got a problem. Now you're going by the letter of the law and not the spiritual context, and not really realizing that's talking about mixing the ways of Babylon and the ways of God. So that's just an example. I'm almost out of time. So you need to understand, you're not under the sacrificial law anymore. That's been done away with. So stop trying to put people back under that yoke of bondage.